great to be here. I want to thank you, Sister Jacqueline. It was wonderful, and the staff for giving me the chance to speak with you today and offer my sincere congratulations to you guys and the deservingly proud parents and family that are here in the room today. To start, I need to speak directly to the graduates in the room for a minute. Graduates, there are two things that the teachers here have never told you. There are benefits, both known and less known, to your graduation from this great school. Some are obvious fruits of your hard work and your talent, and some benefits are the result of a collective deception that we all share as alumni of Notre Dame-Cathedral Latin. As graduates today, you are now assumed to be mature and responsible enough to hear about these, frankly, quite useful deceptions, and it's my honor to share them with you. The first quite useful deception of all NDCL alumni: as you go out into the world beyond this specific geography, generally, when you tell people where you went to high school, they are going to assume by the name that you know and speak Latin. Roll with that. Let them think you are smart enough to speak fluent Latin. This is our shared collective alumni benefit, and it is important that we all perpetuate it. Anyone here actually speak Latin, by the way? I see a couple hands. They're probably getting it confused with Spanish. Even they will get the smart credit, though, if they say they went to Notre Dame-Cathedral Latin. Nobody needs to know. I do not even know where the country of Latin is. But I bet if you flew to Latin and said your school name, even they would think you spoke the language. By the way, I earned a D in Mr. Dowger's geography class. My references might be a little off. I probably should have got an F. That's on you, Dowger. Some advice: when meeting new friends in college, maybe just say you went to NDCL, because the full title can be a little pompous when you're talking to new friends. But if you're in a job interview or another need to impress situation, you should say as many times as possible you attended Notre Dame-Cathedral Latin. First, they will assume you have an affiliation with the Fighting Irish. That usually goes over well. And it's got cathedral in there, so they will imagine that you attended a school that looked like the great room from the Harry Potter movies, which is cool. And of course, Latin, which seals the deal. So the second alumni deception I get to share with you today: when people hear that you attended an institution named Notre Dame-Cathedral Latin, they are going to default toward the belief that you are a smart person. Again, go with that. Just roll with that. I have rode that wave now for 20 years. Frankly, I'm probably the dumbest person in this room right now. And I'm sure that Mr. Dowger agrees with that. I hope you hold comfort in these deceptions, as they are useful tools. And now that we are all good friends and part of the same club, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. First, the fact that I'm standing here giving this speech today is a bit of a miracle. Not due to bad health or any particularly inspirational circle of events, but rather because 20 years ago, I stood on this stage for this same event and was told afterwards never to return to Notre Dame-Cathedral Latin again. I was senior class president in 1992 in the first four-year co-ed graduating class of the newly merged school, and as such, I was asked to say a prayer for our graduation ceremony. However, upon arriving to this podium, I brought from my shirt pocket this: a speech, one that was unapproved. The speech that I gave was considered a bit provocative at the time and not well received by a few senior faculty, but the students loved it, and the parents gave me an ovation as I walked off the stage. After that day, I went to Bowling Green State University, where I studied radio, television, and film, and in my junior year, flew to New York City for an internship at MTV. In 1996, I graduated to a job working in radio in Chicago and worked my way up the ladder and landed in New York City, where I've been for the past 15 years with my family, including my best friend Leslie and my amazing kids, Jax and Allie, who make me proud on a daily basis. I grew up in Newberry, a few towns over from NDCL, on Bass Lake Road, which at the time was a dirt road, where I would spend most of my time riding my BMX bike, listening to the radio on my headphones. I grew up listening to WMMS and a jock named Kid Leo. I thought him to be the coolest person I could ever hope to encounter. I was in 8th grade at St. Helens Elementary when it was announced that Notre Dame-Cathedral Latin would be merging into a co-ed school. I was so enthused to be the first co-ed freshman class. As freshmen, we were the only full class with boys in the school, and that was fun. While at NDCL in my junior year, we participated in a high school shadow program where we got to spend a week interning at a job, and through a classmate with a connection, I ended up spending my week at WMMS, and afterwards we had to write a report, and I still have this report. The final words say, "I really liked working at the radio station this week. I could definitely see myself doing this for a living." So I owe a great debt of gratitude to Notre Dame-Cathedral Latin and the opportunities it presented me. And through my career since that one-week internship, I've weaved together many of the things I considered my dreams while riding that BMX bike on that dirt road in Newberry. I now work at SiriusXM Satellite Radio, executing events and concerts around the nation with some of the biggest celebrities and rock stars I ever could have imagined meeting. I even work with Kid Leo, who works there. I got the chance to thank him on my first day. The past 20 years have provided me some experiences, and I would like to spend the time I have remaining with you to list a few things that I learned through my career that have had the greatest impact. Consider these your final lessons from NDCL, or toca la guitarra, which is Latin for life lessons. But you already knew that. Lesson number 1, reinvent yourself to be the person that you want to be. Though it is pretty darn good, today won't be the greatest day of your life. Your life will have many amazing moments, moments of marriage, the moment you hold your firstborn, the day you get your first job. All of it lies before you today. Today you will hug a few people, enjoy a weekend of parties, and soon you will find yourself at day 1. Wherever you go, you won't be tethered by anything. Not that time you fell in gym class, not the gossip that others have perpetuated, not the time you pretended to speak Latin in front of an audience who knew better. It's a clean slate. This institution, your parents, your past, all of it may have prepared and affected you, but it doesn't define you. The only thing that will define you is who you choose to be. So choose to become great. Choose to become kind, and choose to become the type of person you most look up to, whoever that is. You won't get many chances in life to start fresh. This is a big one, and enjoy it and do it right. In my first month at Bowling Green, I met a guy at a party who was a DJ on the campus radio station, and I asked him if I could sit in when he did his next show, just to observe, and he said yes. When the day came, I showed up on time, and that made one of us. When I walked into the studio, the girl that was on air before was in a huge rush, and she said, "Oh, great, you're here, enjoy your shift," and then she shot out the door. And there I was, alone, listening to Mr. Wendell by Arrested Development play on the CD player and over the airwaves. I waited for the guy to show up for his shift and watched as the CD player counted down. 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left. Those were the days before texting and cell phones, so getting a hold of people wasn't as immediate a possibility, and regardless, I never even got the guy's name, so we wouldn't know where to begin looking. So the song continued on. Mr. Wendell, yeah. Anybody? No? I know the parents maybe. All right. 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. It kept counting down, and my anxiety grew to a panic. 30 seconds left. I noticed that the other CD player seemed queued up with a song. 10 seconds. I reached for the play button. 5 seconds left. Silence. I hit the button. I can tell you that never in the history of mankind has anyone been happier to hear the song "Whoomp, There It Is" start playing. Nor has a moment ever been so befitting of a song's title. I had bought myself another 4 minutes, so I grabbed Billy Joel's River of Dreams off the wall of CDs and put it into the CD player and looked down to see a red button that said "Live Mic," and thought of my BMX bike, my old radio, and Kid Leo, and I knew that was my moment. When the song "Whoomp, There It Is" ended, I said in my coolest radio voice, "That was Whoomp, There It Is. Now here's Billy Joel." And I pressed the button. And there it was, my first time on air. To this day, when I hear Mr. Wendell, I break out into a total panic. Fast forward to 2011, I was on the air at a rock station in New York City, living my dream. I had worked my way up to oversee all of marketing and branding for the station and even helped launch it, and I was on the air in the evenings talking to millions of New York rock fans. It was exactly where I hoped I would be when I said those first trembling words on the radio during my freshman year in college. If I had not taken the chance and gone for it in those early years when I was the same age as you, I would never have realized my dream. Always be ready to invent yourself to become the person you want to be. You never know when your defining moment will come. Lesson number 2, don't worry about the stuff you suck at. I received the only F of my academic career here at NDCL. It was in math, it was geometry. It was a crushing blow at the time, but today I'm here to publicly say thank you NDCL for my F. Because as it turns out, everyone, and I mean everyone in the media industry sucks at math. Literally, to fit in the media industry, you must be terrible at math. A fact crystallized if you look at the stock price of any media company today. My point here is, don't worry about where you fail. Focus on your talents, then add practice, time, and experience, and you will succeed. If you work on improving your weaknesses, it may result in maybe a 10% increase in your successes. But if you focus on your talents, you will increase your success by tenfold. I suck at math, but I'm pretty sure that's more success. Don't worry about the stuff that you're not good at. Focus on your talents and you'll be successful. There is no way you won't. Because the pursuit of success when you're building upon your authentic self holds great pleasure, and where there's great pleasure, there's happiness and a natural propulsion forward. You can't go wrong. Lesson number 3, embrace the time you have on this earth. On the morning of September 11th, 2001, I took the PATH subway train to the World Trade Center. Once there, I climbed the long escalator up the World Trade Center's lobby level and walked through the maze to the uptown subway, which took me to my office. When I emerged above the ground from my midtown stop, I remember smelling a strange smell that smelled like matches that had just been blown out. When I got up to my office, my phone was ringing. I picked it up to hear that an airplane had just struck the World Trade Center. I stood on Fifth Avenue and watched those towers fall with my coworkers that morning. And a few hours later, I tried to escape the city. I remember while walking through Times Square, en route to the West Side Highway ferry, we heard the roar of another low-flying plane, and suddenly realized that we were standing in Times Square in what would be a prime target for another plane. Thinking this might be it, we all stared up into the sky, silent. Suddenly the plane appeared and buzzed over our heads, and it was a US fighter jet. As if in a poorly written action movie, we all threw our fists in the air and yelled, "It's one of ours!" That day taught me and a lot of people, you are not guaranteed tomorrow. So you better nail today. If you want to be something, then start being it when you walk out those doors today. Don't waste any time overthinking action because your time is not guaranteed. If you fail, then you have experience. If you succeed, then you have success. If you never tried, then you gain nothing. Embrace the time you have on this earth and make things happen. Lesson number 4, always default to being assertive. Make a promise to yourself right now that you will always default towards saying yes to the thing that will make you better. If you want to be a runner, like she said, you'll wake up on a cold, wet morning, you won't want to get out of bed, but if you want to run a marathon, you're going to need to do that. Do it. If you've always wanted to do something like become a DJ and a moment arrives where you're in a room alone with a mic and a red button, assert yourself. Press the red button and go for it. If someone offers their hand to help you, but pride is holding you back, take their hand. Take risk. Always assert yourself towards your goal and don't let your bubble shrink or even stay at the same size. Push the edges out, and you will have a fulfilled life filled with the pride of success and not the pain of regret. Lesson number 5, give back. The first summer after I graduated from college, I found myself adrift in search of my first job, going to interviews around the country and trying desperately to not lose hope in the vision that I had for myself. On one occasion, I was flying to Atlanta for an interview where I was to borrow my brother's car and drive to Florida for another interview. While on the plane to Atlanta, I was seated next to an elderly couple who were in their 80s, and as it turned out, the man was a graduate of Cathedral Latin. We spent much of the flight enjoying conversation bound by that coincidence. At the end of the flight, they invited me to cancel my hotel plans and swing by their home in Savannah, Georgia. I was broke, and the fiscal opportunity of a free room and meal almost mandated a yes to that offer. So a few days later, I found myself driving up to their small home in Savannah. As I approached the house, I realized what I was doing. These nice people were almost 90, and there was a real possibility they might not even remember providing the invite. But as I pulled closer, I saw the man seated on his front porch, And on the porch hung a giant sign that read in all capital letters, "Welcome, Brian." Gets better. The warmth and kindness they showed me surpassed any expectation of Southern hospitality I ever could have imagined. They prepared a huge meal, gave me a tour of their town, including the church where they were married, and they showed me around their home, which was covered from floor to ceiling with photos of family and the man's time in the United States military. That evening, after his wife went to bed, I showed him how to make his TV work with the new VCR his kids had gotten him. He had been watching just 3 fuzzy channels for months because it wasn't hooked up right. After an avalanche of thank yous, the man started to tear up. He said to me, "Brian, you remind me of me when I was young, before I had any of these pictures on my walls. You're going to do okay." Those words and that moment are things that I have never forgotten. While I was embarking on my great beginning, these kind people, gracefully approaching their end, took the time to share with me a universal truth of life. And it forever bound us together in that moment, in that small house in front of that broken television. Years later, when I was in the midst of my career and when Google was invented, because it wasn't always around, I typed the man's name. Robert Francis Seedlock was a 1931 graduate of Cathedral Latin. He was a major general who led the construction of the Burma Road that broke the Japanese blockade of China during World War II. He led a force of over 20,000 men and laborers during the war. He was credited with accomplishing one of the hardest tasks ever assigned during wartime. He died in 2004 and is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. I have never forgotten his kindness, and it is the kind of honorable life and selfless compassion that we should all strive for. He knew when he spoke to me on that plane that I was a broke, scared kid, and he took me in. Give back in your own way. Whether it is service that you've provided as a scheduled thing or a chance moment that you find another person that's in need. That's what life is about. So there it is, your final lessons as NDCL students. I want to once again thank you for the opportunity to speak today and realize a great karma moment. And in such spirit, it would be only fitting for me to end this speech with the words I spoke from this podium 20 years ago. Where's Miss Wall? Are you here? It's actually not that bad. I looked through my yearbook and I'm like, this is actually a nice little thing. Back then, bless us, Lord, as we head off into a world of war. Watch over us as we search for what we've been looking for. But as we move on, let us never forget the friends that we've made and the people we've met. To these people, our thanks we should give, because you gave us life, Lord, and our friends help us live. We've loved our school, and it seemed like such fate that we were the first class with guys making the ratio great. That was probably the thing that got me in trouble. We've had a lot of good times, and we've had our share of bad, but we thank you, Lord, for the time together that you've graciously allowed us to have. And we're thankful to the faculty who will always be held near our hearts, from the teacher that taught us trigonometry to that lady that pushes the carts, for showing us respect and for teaching us information and for leading us to this day of our graduation. We sit here for the last time as taught we are well behaved. We understand this moment is great because it even got Andrew to shave. Okay, Andrew was a guy that claimed a medical condition so that he had to grow a beard, but we all knew that was not real. So he actually shaved for graduation. I don't see any beards out there, that's good. We walk out of here with caution toward what the future may hold. Remember, my friends, to seize the day because the future fits in no mold. The 4 years of our past have been more than we've ever expected. We pray, Lord, that our futures will be as bright as the past that you've already perfected. It really wasn't that bad a speech, was it? Thank you, Sister Jacqueline, again for practicing forgiveness and asking me here. And thank you, parents and teachers, for all you do. And to the class of 2014, Donde es el tocadisco, which is Latin for go change the world.